Hi, and thanks for joining me again today. Now, I know yesterday I said that yesterday would be the last day of 1 Corinthians chapter 13 and verse 11, but may I just stretch the friendship a bit, just a little bit, and just do one more lesson on verse 11. And thanks, I take that, and I'll do verse 11. Thank you for being so kind. And verse 11 is saying, when I was a child, I spoke as a child, I understood as a child, and I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. Now, when we take this in reference to the entirety of 1 Corinthians chapter 13, we've got to remember that Apostle Paul is bringing correction to the Corinthian church, how they were moving in the gifts of the Spirit and prophecy and other manifestations of the Spirit of God, and just began to fall away from the initial call of Christianity being love. And kind of like a little bit sidetracked. And, you know, in all honesty, we see a little bit of this going on today. And so, you know, when we speak about prophecy and about a prophet, you know, Jesus made it very clear that, you know, he said, you will know them by their fruit. And unfortunately today, many will judge a prophet as being a true prophet simply due to the fact that maybe their prophecies come to pass. Now, Jesus didn't say that's how you judge a prophet. He said you'll know them by their fruit. And so what kind of fruit are we looking for to be able to judge whether the prophet or the prophecy, you know, be right? So I want to bring this back now to 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 11, you know, about a child and a man. Now, when it says about a man being a person who has reached full age, now just listen to the word as I read this morning. And it says here that in verse 4, 1 Corinthians 13, it says, love suffers long. And so a person who has reached full age is a person who just really walks in this love. And so a mature person suffers long and is kind. A mature person is not envious. A mature person, they don't parade themselves, and they're not puffed up. See, these are the things that a child will do, the infant will do, and this is the balance that Apostle Paul is bringing out here. And in verse 5 it says here, it's speaking about, you know, love does not behave rudely. You'll see a person who's reached full age doesn't behave like that, a child does. And it says here, and it does not seek its own. And, you know, a mature person will not seek their own. They're not provoked. They're not easily provoked. Children are. And it goes on to say, and thinks no evil. I mean, you can work that one out for yourself. And verse 6 says, does not rejoice in iniquity, but rejoices in truth. And see, this is the fruit of a mature person. And the opposite, obviously, is the fruit of a child. And it goes on to say in verse 7 that love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. And see, this is the fruit that we see in a person's life, that we can tell just by observing how they live, where they are at spiritually. And a person who has this as their love walk, as their walk as a Christian, you can be rest assured to know that this person has reached full age and has maturity. But when it's the opposite, we know that that person is still a child. So Apostle Paul's bringing out here to the Christian church, and I believe bringing out to us today, that, you know, if we are practicing any of the things, verse 4 to verse 7, you know, that if we are unkind and we're envious and, you know, we parade ourselves and we're puffed up at times and we behave rudely with other people, you know, and the list goes on, that we know that, you know, there's an indicator here showing that we got a little bit of growing to do. And so the scripture's saying that when I was a child, I thought as a child, I spoke as a child, I acted as a child. Paul's saying, the scripture's saying, yeah, that's how we started. But you know what? There's a whole lot more. And it's the fruit that God is looking for in our life, that when we become, as a man, as a full-grown Christian, mature, and then that person then begins to move in the gifts of the Spirit and prophesying and, you know, as the Spirit leads, then you can see a beautiful partnership taking place between the Spirit of God and a vessel, the human agency of a person, working together to do a wonderful work. And remember that all of these manifestations of the Spirit are for the blessing of people, for the help of people, the people that are in need. And this is one of the ways that God does reach out to very real people every single day. And so, when we speak about when I was a child and now that I'm a man, a grown man, a mature person, that, we need to gauge ourselves, not anybody else, but just gauge ourselves. Do I behave in any of those ways from verse 4 to verse 7? And if I do, I know that I've got a little bit of work to do. And remember that prophecy and prophet is not judged whether or not their prophecies come to pass. Jesus actually said, you will know them by their fruit. And I've read out some of the fruit that the Bible speaks and teaches about here from verse 4 to verse 7. So anyway, have a bit of a think about that and flick through the scriptures, and you'll find that what I'm sharing with you this morning is a really good start for a good Bible study to follow this through, and it's very interesting. Anyway, I believe that today is the last day of verse 11 of 1 Corinthians 13. Tomorrow is another day. Anyway, thank you for being patient. Have a blessed day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.